With our Active Directory database now powered down and dismounted, we can perform these three different activities that I mentioned before: the check for integrity, the internal consistency verification, as well as compacting the database itself. So let's start with actually checking the database integrity. I just went back here and brought us back to the command prompt so that we could once again go into ntdsutil. And then from there, what we need to do is go to activate instance ntds. What this means is essentially we are pointing now ntdsutil to the active instance, meaning the actual Active Directory database itself. Now you might be wondering why we need to do this. Because here in Active Directory, we have the ability to have multiple different directory partitions, thanks to Active Directory lightweight directory services. And so this submenu here is necessary so that you can ultimately then identify which instance we're interested in working with. Once we've done that, the next step in this process here actually is to identify what we need to do, which if we scroll up here, what we're looking for is under Files, to manage the database files for the database itself. Here under Files and File Maintenance, we have one thing we want to do, which is to run the integrity check right here to perform the JET logical integrity check. If I type in integrity here, that will actually run through the database, and you'll see here that the integrity check was successful. Notice also that it recommends you run the semantic database analysis check also to ensure that the database is internally consistent. From this same location, I believe, let me just double check here. In fact, nope, we got to go back one. From this location here, we can run the semantic database analysis check here. So semantic database analysis. Notice how instead of actually typing in all the characters, I can just type in the first couple of characters for each of the words that make up the submenu I'm interested in. That will take me to the semantic checker here, where I can go actually to perform the test, as well as to fix up any errors that it finds. To perform the test, it would just be go, but to actually fix the errors, it would be fix up as well. This will go through there and verify that the database is indeed internally consistent, and then respond back with the fact that indeed everything is just fine. Now, obviously this is a very simple database. We've not done a lot with the database itself, but in a very large environment, from time to time, it may be worth just setting a note in your calendar to go through performing these tests. Obviously, there's a bit of downtime that's required for you to do this on this machine, but performing these tests can be something you may want to do on a regular scheduled basis, just every so often. For our third task, we want to actually compact the database as well. Now, the way the database happens here in Active Directory, the database will continue to get larger as objects are added and even removed. The actual compaction of the database never occurs unless you dismount it and go through this specific routine to make the database smaller. So as you go through the everyday management and activities of your Active Directory database, it's only ever going to get bigger unless you go through these additional activities. Let's quit out of the semantic checker here, and what we want to do is go back into the Files view. So right back up here when we were in the files or the database files for management. If I go back into files here, what I want to do, if I do the question mark again, is show you right here, compact to, and then a %s, which is essentially a directory where I want to compact the database to. If I do compact to :/, for example, that will go about compacting the database and making a copy of it into the location that I specified, so the root of C. Now you notice when we do that, that this defragmentation process is completed, but it doesn't actually replace the existing database with the now defragmented version of the database, or the compacted version of the database. Down here, once compaction is successful, you actually need to copy the ntds.dit file that we created over to the location C Windows ntds.dit. That's actually the location of the production database itself. You'll also need to go through and delete the old log files that are found there as well, so star.log. Once you've done that, let's assume that we've made that copy, for example. Once you've done that, your next step in the process is just simply to start the NTDS service once again, and that will then start the service with all of those changes because the new database is in that same location. So we'll do net start NTDS to get things up and operational again. I should mention too, don't forget also to power on all those additional services that were taken down by us stopping the NTDS service. So DNS and DFSR and so on. We've just here started NTDS. There's a couple other things that have to get started as well. Now, notably, if you can't remember which of those services got powered down as part of shutting down Active Directory, well, just rebooting the server will bring them all back online.